Hi all, I have another amazing game to show you today from the US Chess Championship of 2017. Yaroslav Zherebukh, excuse pronunciation issues, was playing white against Hikaru Nakamura. So Zherebukh is actually, originally he's Ukrainian. He was a member in 2006 with the Ukrainian national youth team, and he won the under-16 chess Olympiad in Turkey. In 2010, he won the Capel de Grande in France ahead of 82 GMs and 61 IMs with 7.5 out of 9. And in 2010, he also scored 8 out of 11 to win the Young Stars of the World Tournament. So, yeah, he qualified in 2016 for this US Chess Championship because prior to that, in 2015, he switched his affiliation from Ukraine to the United States. So an amazing new player for the US Chess Championship. E4 from Zherebukh. We have Nakamura playing the Caro-Kann. Okay, knight c3 here. D takes. And now bishop f5. Pretty mainline stuff so far. But now this move knight h3. Knight h3 looks a little bit quirky, you might think. It's the fourth most popular move in the position. Usually h4 like this, for example, with h6. This is like a very popular path, of course. So knight h3, bit of a surprise move. Also knight f3, bishop c4 have been used before, but knight h3. So one of the points, try and get this bishop. You might think there's a little bit of a downside, surely, even if white gets that bishop, surely this h file might be dangerous. Just intuitively. But let's see, knight f6, knight f4. Quite often e5 is played in this position, but maybe Nakamura didn't want the possibility of, well, this possibility. I don't think he wants to take the queens here. Well, that's equal as well, but if he wants to keep the queens on, yeah, they get swapped off anyway, potentially. So that's move e5. Maybe Nakamura is higher rated player, doesn't want to play the e5 line. Keeps more tension maybe with this move, knight bd7. Now queen c7, white castles, and quite often e6 is played here, as it is in this game. It's fairly logical. Bishop d6 now threatening the knight. That's usually protected with queen f3. So this is a known position. Known position. Now it's here that black usually castles kingside. And that aforementioned downside of knight g6, you know, that this rook might be activated, would be neutralized to some extent if black did the main move, which is in live book, which is castles. And it's thought to be equal, actually. Knight takes g6. There's also bishop b3, and then knight takes g6, and it's about equal. And usually, you know, black takes with the h pawn. But in this game, Nakamura actually keeps the the hack attack aspects going. Should we call them the hack attack features going with c5? So if there's any knight takes, you might think this rook could be useful for some sort of hack attack. The king in the center, you might think, well, what about bishop takes e6? This doesn't quite work out in this line, for example, with queen c6 challenging the queen. This position, if the queens come off, it's not such a big deal, this position. Black's slightly better. So it seems bishop takes e6 is not completely crushing. We have d takes c5, bishop takes c5, taking the pressure off the knight, of course. But it is actually threatening bishop takes f2, by the way, hitting the bishop here. Bishop drops back. Now black castles queenside. Yeah. And white, maybe not feeling the danger, does actually play knight takes g6. So a very, very interesting decision, because surely you might think at an intuitive level, you know, black's got a bit of play here on the h file. Let's see if queen e2. This might be a way of having a stable position as well, or maybe, pardon me, a more stable position without this active rook. Example, knight e5. And in fact here, there is a slight snag with the bishop pointing at d3. And maybe it's about timing really, that if this can be extinguished now, then there's bishop f4, and this seems safe enough. For example, like this, even if there's knight f3, it's not such a big... So this position seems about equal actually. It's perhaps quite stable. But the way it was played in this game, after knight takes bishop f4, black hasn't got a knight on e5 and actually plays e5. And this is actually a little bit dangerous for white now, to say the least. We see bishop e3, but guess what Nakamura plays in this position? If I give you 5 seconds, starting from now. Let's pause the video. Well, the rook is rearing its head here with the move e4. Yeah, because the knight's kind of pinned now to h2. You know, if knight takes, queen takes, mate. Thanks very much. So the queen goes to e2. Alternatives. Let's have a quick look at alternatives. If queen f4, bishop d6. If queen g5, knight e5. This is starting to be a bit vicious because here, knight fg4, hitting h2, hitting the bishop. It's looking a little bit vicious. For example, like this. But it's plausible nonetheless. I mean, it's scary. It's scary, but it's plausible. Okay, but queen e2 was played. And now this is actually maybe technically inferior because bishop takes e3. Queen takes e3 is played. And now guess what Nakamura plays? So it's a7 pawns hanging, so you might be concerned about this. You might also have a concern about bishop takes in conjunction with check and bishop e6 check if the knight's put back on b8. So this is an issue and an issue here, but Nakamura plays nevertheless. What do you reckon if I give you 5 seconds? Okay, rook takes h2. So if king takes, then there's knight g4 check, nice fork. We have rook fd1. And now the rook's double, threatening. Well, not quite. There's not yet a mating. Oh, it's close. It's getting close, I've got to say. So let's have a look at the game continuation. Queen takes a7. Now here, a key move, but actually there's two really dangerous moves for white, in fact. So Nakamura plays one of them. Black to play. Okay, the move e3, it's pretty devastating stuff. e3, getting another key tempo really, getting the queen back away from the king. If the queen plunges in, then there's just knight b8, and then what? You might think the aforementioned bishop takes in bishop e6. Let's have a quick look at that. Is there time for white to do this? Well, no, actually the queen's just protecting f7 anyway. We can just take here if nothing else, and then there's nothing going on there. It's not happening there, and black's getting torn to shreds over here, surely. You know, with the knight hanging there. So this is not particularly healthy for the queen to be stuck on a8. So the queen did actually just come and take that pawn, come back to take that pawn, but alas now, knight g4. The game ends here. There's a crushing tactic available to black. Let me see if you can spot it. A good tactics test. Say the game continued queen f3, which it didn't. Can you see what black has in this position, which actually forces mate? It's pretty cute. It's pretty cute, and it's a resource pattern we should all be aware of, I believe, in our own games. It's definitely a useful attacking mating pattern. So black to play. If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video, there's a forced checkmate sequence. Okay, rook h1 check, and the point is, can you see? Not queen h2. King's got an escape potentially. No, just rook takes h1, dragging and dropping the king to h1 for queen h2 checkmate. Yeah, a crushing game. Yeah, only 21 moves. Knight g4. Yeah. Okay, I hope you got something from this game. It shows, yeah, you can have a bit of hack attack action, even in the US Chess Championship, it seems, with a rook on the h file. Comments, questions, likes, shares, appreciated. Thanks very much.